10 soul and R&B albums from the 1970s. And here's what I want you to sit with before we even start. Modern artists with Pro Tools, unlimited budgets, rooms full of co-writers, and every record in history available to pull from still haven't made anything that sounds like what the people on this list made with tape machines and raw feeling. Going to talk about what they had, what that era had, and why, no matter how good the music gets, these albums sit on a shelf nobody else has reached. Here's number 10. Number 10, the Isley Brothers, 3+3, 1973. Before 1973, the Isley Brothers were already legends, but they were a different kind of legend. Gospel roots, hit singles going back to the late 50s, more than a decade of grinding through an industry that loved their energy but kept putting them in boxes. And then 3 younger siblings joined the group, Ernie, Marvin, and Chris Jasper, and something completely unexpected happened. The sound changed. And by the time That Lady came on the radio in the summer of 1973, you didn't just hear it. You felt it somewhere in your chest. 3+3 was the album. Released in 1973 on their own T-Neck label, it hit number 1 on the R&B albums chart and number 8 pop. That Lady reached number 6 pop and number 2 R&B. Those are the numbers, but the story is bigger. What Ernie Isley brought to this record was a guitar style that drew directly from Jimi Hendrix. Raw, expressive, it's blues rooted, but with a psychedelic edge that had no business being on a soul album, except that it worked perfectly. Here's what most people don't know. Ernie Isley grew up watching Jimi Hendrix rehearse in his family's home. Jimi was dating their older sister at the time. Ernie literally watched one of the greatest guitarists in history practice in his living room as a child. And when you listen to the lead work on That Lady with that knowledge, it's a different listen entirely. And here's what 3+3 does that modern R&B can't seem to figure out. It holds both worlds at once. The guitar is loud, present, unapologetic. The groove underneath it is deep and locked in. Ronald's voice sits right in the middle and doesn't flinch. If you've ever been at a party where a DJ transitions from funk to something rock-edged and the room splits, some people stay, some people drift. This album doesn't let that happen. It holds the room. The generation who grew up in church feels the soul. The generation who grew up on rock feels the guitar. And nobody has to choose. But here's the part of the story that doesn't get told often enough. They released this album on their own label. The Isley Brothers owned their masters in 1973. At the height of the music industry's most exploitative era, while other black artists were locked into deals that stripped them of ownership and royalties, the Isleys had already figured out what took the rest of the industry decades to catch up on. And that's not a footnote. That's the whole lesson. That's number 10. Number 9 came from a man who wasn't even supposed to get the job, who showed up anyway, didn't get what he came for, and accidentally changed the history of film music. Number 9, Isaac Hayes, Shaft, 1971. In 1972, a black musician walked up to a podium at the Academy Awards in Hollywood wearing a chainmail vest and a cape and accepted the Oscar for Best Original Song. He was the first African American to win an Oscar in a non-acting category. And the song he wrote, the song he hadn't even planned to release as a single, had already knocked John Lennon's Imagine off the #1 spot on the Billboard 200. Think about that for a second.
All the chicks. Damn.
John Lennon's Imagine, gone. Replaced by a wah-wah guitar and a voice asking who you calling a bad mother. Isaac Hayes made Shaft. The album, not just the song. A double album. The first double album of original studio material ever released by an R&B artist. It hit #1 pop, #1 R&B, and spent 60 weeks on the Billboard chart.
And no one understands him but his woman.
Theme from Shaft hit #1 on the Hot 100, 3 Grammy Awards, the best-selling album in the history of Stax Records, and Hayes had originally walked into that project hoping to play John Shaft himself. He'd heard they were making the film and went to the producers hoping to audition for the lead role. They didn't tell him Richard Roundtree was already cast. He found out later, and he wrote the music anyway. Here's what gets me about that. Hayes showed up for one thing, got something else entirely, and made the piece of work that defined his life because of it. And if you've ever been redirected by circumstance towards something you didn't plan for, something that turned out to be bigger than what you came looking for, you know that feeling has its own particular weight. The album is not just a theme song with filler around it. That's the misunderstanding. Soulsville is a 6-minute meditation on urban poverty. Do Your Thing is 19 minutes of improvisation and funk that pushes into jazz territory. Hayes thought theatrically. Quincy Jones said so publicly. He scored these tracks like a man building a world, not like a man filling a soundtrack. But here's the part about the Academy. When Hayes was nominated for Best Original Score, they tried to disqualify him because he couldn't write sheet music in the traditional sense. He composed by dictation and feel. It took Quincy Jones, Henry Mancini, J.J. Johnson, and Dominic Frontier going to bat for him just to keep the nomination. The industry looked at how he made the music, decided it didn't count, and then had to watch him win. In a chainmail vest on live television. That's #9. #8 made 2 of the most covered songs in the history of American music and recorded the entire album in 8 hours for $7,500. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. #8, Bill Withers, Still. Bill, 1972. Bill Withers was 33 years old. He'd spent 9 years in the Navy. He'd worked the assembly line at Ford. He'd manufactured aircraft lavatories for an aerospace company. And then he walked into a studio with his road band, cut an entire album in a single day, and made 2 of the most covered, most recognized, most human songs in the history of popular music. Still, Bill came out in 1972. Lean on Me hit #1 on both the pop and R&B charts. Use Me hit #2 on both. 2 singles from the same album, both in the top 2 across pop and R&B within the same calendar year. The album reached #4 on the Billboard 200 and #1 R&B, and the whole thing was recorded in 8 hours for $7,500 in the drummer's rehearsal space, then straight to the studio. Bill Withers' words in 2003, "We cut that whole Still Bill album in 8 hours for $7,500. I love that band. Most of what passes for a soul or R&B album today takes 6 months, a team of co-writers, and a budget that would fund a small film, and I'll let you sit with that comparison on your own time. But here's what I want you to understand about Lean on Me specifically. That song did not come from an abstract idea about friendship. It came from the way communities actually worked in the place Bill grew up." Slab Fork, West Virginia, a small coal mining town where you literally could not survive without your neighbor, where the distance between a family and nothing was the person next door. He wasn't writing a concept, he was writing a memory, and you hear that. You hear the difference between a song written about something and a song written from inside it. And then there's Who Is He and What Is He to You, also on this album. 4-note bass groove that burrows into you. It's a man watching his partner exchange a glance with a stranger. The whole song is that one moment held completely still. No resolution, no confrontation. Just the slow, quiet accumulation of suspicion. And if you've ever been in a room and felt something shift without being able to name it, just felt that it shifted, that song is about your moment. Not Bill's, yours, and that is the whole game. A sweet young pretty, That is exactly what separates the untouchable records from the merely great ones. Bill Withers walked away from the music business in 1985 and didn't come back. He said the industry kept trying to reshape him into something he wasn't, and he wouldn't allow it. He died in March 2020. And Lean on Me trended worldwide within hours because a song that was recorded in a day in a garage 50 years ago still belongs to every single person who has ever needed someone and been lucky enough to have them show up. That's number 8. Number 7 is an album with 3 Billboard top 10 pop singles, and 2 of them are country covers. Number 7, Al Green, Call Me, 1973. Memphis, Tennessee, Royal Studios. A producer named Willie Mitchell who understood something about tempo that most producers never figure out, that the space between the notes matters more than the notes themselves. And a singer whose voice could make you feel like the whole room just got 3 degrees warmer. Call Me was Al Green's 6th studio album. It came out in April 1973. It debuted at number 1 on the R&B Albums chart and number 10 on the Billboard 200. You Ought to Be With Me hit number 3 pop and number 1 R&B. Call Me, Come Back Home hit number 10 pop and number 2 R&B. Here I Am, Come and Take Me hit number 10 pop and number 2 R&B. 3 top 10 pop singles from one album at the same time. From the same Memphis studio by one singer who sounded through all of it like he wasn't even trying. And here's the thing about Call Me that separates it from just another great soul album. In the middle of his commercial peak, at the height of his fame, Al Green put 2 country covers on this record. Hank Williams' I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Willie Nelson's Funny How Time Slips Away. A black soul artist in 1973 covering country classics. And he doesn't adapt them, doesn't modernize them, doesn't reframe them. He just sings them and they become Al Green songs completely, instantly. What that tells you about this man is everything. He wasn't making music to fit a category. He was making music because certain songs were true to him. Hank Williams wrote I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry about silence so heavy it has a sound. about loneliness that physically hurts. And when Al Green sings it, you don't think about Hank Williams, you think about your own quiet room. That's the whole thing. Great singers make the song belong to your life, not their biography. And then the album closes with Jesus is Waiting, a straight up gospel song, not a pop song dressed up as gospel, an actual gospel message to close a top 10 pop record. In 1976, Green would establish the Full Gospel Tabernacle Church in Memphis and largely walk away from secular music to become a pastor. Looking back, that closing track reads less like a song and more like a signal. He was already telling you on a 3 top 10 singles album. Whether faith means anything to you or not, there's something undeniable about a man who had everything the industry could offer and turned towards something he valued more. That's not a mistake, that's character. And the music he made before he turned reflects that same clarity. Call Me is a perfect soul album. Not a perfect for its time album. Perfect. Period. That's number 7. Number 6 was made for a film nobody remembers and became a record nobody can forget. Number 6, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's The Way of the World, 1975. The movie it was made for barely got distributed. Harvey Keitel was in it. The band appeared in it. The film was called That's the Way of the World. You've probably never seen it. Almost no one has. But the album that came out of the same project, that album is triple platinum, debuted at number 1 on both the Billboard 200 and the Top Soul Albums chart, produced a Grammy-winning number 1 single, still in rotation at every gathering where joy is required. Earth, Wind, and Fire released That's the Way of the World in March 1975. It spent 3 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard, 205 weeks at number 1 R&B. Shining Star went to number 1 pop and won the Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or a Group with Vocals. The title track reached number 5 R&B and number 12 pop, triple platinum. And here's the context. This was the album that broke EWF through commercially. Morris White had been building toward this record for years. Everything before it was preparation. And here's what most people miss about Morris White. Before EWF, he was a session drummer at Chess Records in Chicago. He played on records for Muddy Waters. He was steeped in blues, jazz, gospel, and soul from the inside, not as a listener, but as a working musician who understood how all of it connected. When he built Earth, Wind, and Fire, he built it from the foundation up. That's why the rhythm section is so solid. You can stack the most elaborate horn arrangements and the highest falsetto on top of it, and nothing shakes. Listen, the title track of this album is one of the most beautiful songs in the history of Black American music. A child is born with a heart of gold. The way of the world makes his heart grow cold. That lyric isn't saying the world is evil. It's saying something more complicated and more painful, that life wears down what's best in us. And that knowing that, we still have to find a way to stay present in it. If you've ever watched someone you love get harder because the world gave them no choice, if you've ever felt yourself becoming someone you didn't plan to be, that song is already in the room with you. And then there's Philip Bailey's falsetto on Reasons. There's a moment in that song where the falsetto sustains over the horn section and just holds there, just floats, and you feel it physically, not emotionally, physically. And I want you to find a modern R&B record that creates that specific experience, because I've been looking and I'm still looking. That's number 6. The next 4 albums are where this list moves from great music to something heavier, because great music and music that cannot be replaced are 2 different categories.
What's your light? Shine star.
Number 5, Donny Hathaway, Live, 1972. There are great live albums. There are live albums that capture a great performance. And then there are live albums that make you feel somehow like you are in the room, like the microphones picked up something that shouldn't have been recordable, not just sound, presence. Donny Hathaway, Live is that third thing, and the man who made it died at 33 years old, and no one has made anything like it since. The album was recorded at 2 shows in 1971, one at the Troubadour in Hollywood, one at the Bitter End in New York City. It came out in February 1972 on Atlantic Records. Rolling Stone ranked it among the 50 greatest live albums ever recorded. Justin Timberlake has called Hathaway the best singer of all time. Alicia Keys, Common, the foundation of neo-soul, they all point to this man as a source, and this album specifically as proof of what he was. Here's what makes it extraordinary. Donny Hathaway covers 3 other artists' songs on this record. He covers Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. He covers Carole King's You've Got a Friend. He covers John Lennon's Jealous Guy. All 3 are already beloved songs before Hathaway gets to them, and what he does to each of them is not a cover. It's a possession.
Keep it good, y'all. Keep it good. That's the minute.
If you've heard the original of You've Got a Friend, which is beautiful, and then heard Hathaway's version at the Bitter End, you understand what I mean when I say that Carole King's song became Donny Hathaway's song in real time in front of a live audience. The 12-minute version of The Ghetto on this album is unlike anything on any studio record. The crowd is not an audience, and they are participants. Hathaway conducts their energy the way a choir director handles a congregation. There's a moment where he stops singing entirely, and the audience carries the song for a full minute without him. What you hear is what music is actually for. Not to perform at people, to perform with them. To create together something that neither side could feel alone. And now the part of the story that is hard to hold alongside all of that beauty. Donny Hathaway struggled deeply with schizoaffective disorder, with paranoia, with suffering that was invisible to everyone in that room on the nights these recordings were made. He was at the absolute peak of his musical gifts, and he was in tremendous private pain. He recorded his last solo album in 1973. And on January 13th, 1979, he died at the Essex House Hotel in New York City, 33 years old. His final album contains a ballad called Someday We'll All Be Free. The liner notes say that when he heard the finished mix, he sat in the studio and cried. If you've ever watched someone you love produce the most extraordinary work of their life while privately carrying something too heavy, that combination of gratitude and grief doesn't settle. This album is the best of him, all of it live, unrepeatable. Recorded so we'd never have to take everyone's word for what we lost. That's number 5. Number 4 wrote the music before anyone had seen the film, and the music told a different story than the film did. Number 4, Curtis Mayfield, Superfly, 1972.
Let the man wrap a plan, said it sent him home, but his heart was a rope.
In the summer of 1972, audiences were lining up around the block for a film called Superfly. And here's what happened inside those theaters. Before the movie started, people were already singing along to the songs. because the soundtrack had been released first. DJs were playing it in clubs on the radio. Audiences walked in already knowing the music. And when the story began on screen, they heard from the speakers was not score, it was commentary. Curtis Mayfield had written a response to the film that was sharper, more honest, and more morally clear than the film itself. Superfly came out July 1972. It was the first #1 pop album of Mayfield's career. Freddie's Dead hit #2 R&B, #4 pop. The title track hit #5 R&B, #8 pop. 2 million selling singles. One of the very few soundtracks in history to commercially outgross the film it accompanied. And briefly, it knocked The Godfather out of the #1 spot at the box office.
Ripped him up and abused him. Another junkie play.
A blaxploitation film from a $1 million budget. Knocked The Godfather down. But here's the critical dissonance at the heart of this record. The film is ambiguous about the drug trade. The main character is sympathetic, and the ending lets him walk away. Curtis Mayfield's music on the same soundtrack is not ambiguous. Pusherman is not a celebration.
Remember, Freddie's Dead.
Freddie's Dead is a tragedy. No Thing on Me is a refusal. Mayfield grew up in the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago. He wasn't writing from outside looking in. He was writing from inside the grief of a community the drug trade was destroying. And his music pushed back against the film in real time, playing underneath images it refused to endorse.
Man, a terrible blow, but that's how it goes.
Some people say that's the album's contradiction. Others say it's the album's genius. I think Mayfield knew exactly what he was doing. He took a film that might have accidentally celebrated something destructive and made sure the record told the truth about it. Whether you agree with that interpretation or not, the music makes the argument without asking your permission. And then there's the Grammys, 4 nominations. Mayfield lost in every single category. Best Original Score went to Nino Rota for The Godfather, the exact film that Superfly knocked off the #1 spot. Mayfield's music, which would go on to be cited by Chuck D, Beyonce, Kendrick Lamar, and Chance the Rapper as foundational, lost its Grammy to the film it temporarily beat at the box office. I'll let you decide what that says.
Freddie's Dead.
Curtis Mayfield made this record in late 1971 when he should have been exhausted. A decade with the Impressions. Years as the musical voice of the civil rights movement, and somehow he found another gear. I always felt those songs will be relevant forever, he said, because they are so strong.
If you wanna be a junkie,
He was right. In 1990, a lighting rig collapsed on him at an outdoor concert in Brooklyn, paralyzing him from the neck down. He dictated the songs for his final album, lying on his back, still writing, still finding it. That's #4.
now Freddie's dead. That's what I said.
#3 is the second Marvin Gaye album on this list. And where #1 is about the world burning, #3 is about what you do with your body while the world burns.
Why can't we brothers protect one another?
#3, Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On, 1973. After What's Going On, the music world expected Marvin Gaye to keep going deeper into social commentary, to keep making statements, to keep pressing against power. And instead, in 1973, he walked into the studio with a co-writer named Ed Townsend, who had brought him a lyric about spiritual and physical liberation and made one of the most intimate records in the history of American music. Not intimate like quiet, intimate like unguarded. Like Nothing Between the Man and You, Let's Get It On, was released August 28th, 1973. The title track hit #1 On both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B chart, the album reached number 2 pop and number 1 R&B. It became the second best-selling album of Gaye's career, behind the one we'll get to in a moment. Rolling Stone ranks it among their 500 greatest albums, and the reach of its influence is still expanding. From Luther Vandross to D'Angelo to Frank Ocean, the lineage is direct and audible. Here's what Ed Townsend brought to the record that Gaye didn't expect. Townsend was working from a place of personal spiritual reckoning, wrestling with what it meant to celebrate physical love as something holy rather than something to be ashamed of. And Gaye, who grew up under a deeply religious and often punishing father, who had spent years in tension between sacred and secular, grabbed that framework immediately. Let's Get It On isn't a seduction record. It's an argument that love between people is one of the ways we experience what's divine. And whether you find that argument convincing or convenient, the music doesn't let you stay outside it. Gaye's vocal on the title track is one of the most uninhibited performances in the history of recorded sound. Not because it's the loudest or the most technically impressive, because it sounds completely unguarded, like a man who has decided he has nothing left to protect. If you've ever heard someone speak to you with total honesty, nothing performed, nothing managed, you know what that sounds like. This album sounds like that. Here's the full weight of the context. 2 years before Let's Get It On, Gaye had been in the darkest period of his life. He'd watched his closest musical partner, Tammy Terrell, die of a brain tumor. His marriage was collapsing. He had retreated from performing for years. And then he made What's Going On, which was about public grief. And then he made Let's Get It On, which was about private joy. 2 consecutive masterpieces, one about the world, one about the body, made by the same man who had just come through the hardest years of his life. You can't manufacture that range. It comes from somewhere real. And if you've ever come out the other side of something genuinely dark and found your way back to actually feeling alive, not performing it, but feeling it, you know what this album is reaching toward. That's number 3. Number 2 almost never got made because the man who made it was about to leave the country. Number 2, Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life, 1976. By early 1975, Stevie Wonder was seriously considering leaving music. Not stepping back, leaving. He was thinking about moving to Ghana to work with children with disabilities. A farewell concert was being discussed, and Motown, to prevent him from walking out, paid what was at the time one of the largest recording contracts in music history to bring him back to the table. What Stevie did with that contract over the next 2 years, across 4 recording studios, is arguably the most ambitious solo musical project ever completed by a single human being. Songs in the Key of Life came out September 28th, 1976, a double album plus a 4-song bonus EP, 21 original compositions, every one of them written, produced, and primarily performed by Stevie Wonder. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, only the 3rd album in history to do that. It stayed at number 1 for 14 consecutive weeks. Won the Grammy for Album of the Year. I Wish hit number 1 on the Hot 100 and the R&B chart. Sir Duke hit number 1 pop, diamond certified in the United States, 10 million copies sold. Here's what happened at the Grammys the year before songs came out. Paul Simon won Album of the Year for Still Crazy after all these years. And in his acceptance speech in front of the entire music industry, he joked publicly that he wanted to thank Stevie Wonder for not releasing an album that year. Because Stevie had won Album of the Year the 2 years before for Inner Visions and then Fulfilling This' first finale back to back. And everyone in the room understood as long as Stevie was making music, the Grammy was gone before the ceremony started. Simon acknowledged it with a smile, and then Stevie came back with Songs in the Key of Life and won again. 21 songs, one person. Isn't She Lovely was written the night his daughter Aisha was born. He recorded it with her baby sounds in the background. Sir Duke is a love letter to Duke Ellington that doubles as a celebration of music itself. Pastime Paradise would eventually become the foundation of Gangsta's Paradise, one of the most successful rap singles of the 1990s, built on a melody Stevie wrote at 26. It is 9 minutes long and contains what many people consider the greatest love lyric in American popular music. And all of that is in the same double album, made by one person in 2.5 years. And here's the thing about the scope of what he was doing. He wasn't assembling songs. He was building a world. The musical range on this album spans funk, jazz, gospel, pop, orchestral, African percussion, blues, and it never sounds scattered. It sounds like one mind that could hold all of that simultaneously and make it cohere. That is not something you learn in a studio. That is a level of musical intelligence that may have been specific to one person at one particular moment, working at a scale no one had attempted. Here's the part I can't stop thinking about. Stevie spent 2.5 years on this. The label literally printed "We're almost finished" t-shirts to sell to fans who had been waiting. And when it was finally released, viewed at number one, not because of perfect marketing or a lucky cultural moment. Because it was the most complete thing anyone had made. When you listen to Songs in the Key of Life from the beginning, you don't hear a collection of tracks. You feel a mind opening up. And I genuinely don't know if we'll hear that again. We're at number one now. I've been thinking about how to describe this album for a while, because there's only one honest way to start the story, and it's this. The man who owned the label heard this album and called it the worst record I ever heard in my life. And the day it was released to the public, it sold 100,000 copies. Number one, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, 1971.
Of you dying, you know we.
Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records, one of the most commercially gifted ears in the history of the music business, listened to this song and refused to release it. He called it the worst record I ever heard in my life. Marvin Gaye threatened to never record for Motown again if they didn't put it out. While Gordy was on vacation, someone at the label released it anyway. It sold 100,000 copies on its first day. By the end of 1971, the album that Gordy had refused became the best-selling album of Marvin Gaye's entire career. Today, it sits at number one on Rolling Stone's list of the greatest albums in the history of recorded music. Not the greatest soul album, not the greatest R&B album, the greatest album. Everything. What's Going On was released May 21st, 1971. It's a concept album, a song cycle told from the perspective of a Vietnam veteran returning home to a country in turmoil. Drug abuse, poverty, even police brutality, ecological destruction. Songs that flow into each other with almost no silence between them, like a single continuous thought. The title track hit number 2 on the Hot 100 and held number 1 R&B for 5 weeks. Mercy Mercy Me and Inner City Blues both hit the top 10 of the Hot 100. Gaye became the first male solo artist to launch 3 top 10 singles from a single album, and the album spent over a year on the charts. Now I want to tell you about the bass line. The opening pulse on What's Going On, one of the most analyzed, most imitated, most recognized bass lines in the history of recorded sound, was played by James Jamison, the Motown session musician many consider the greatest electric bassist who ever lived. And James Jamison recorded that bass line lying flat on his back on the studio floor. He was too intoxicated to stand. He played the entire thing horizontal, and it came out perfect.
What's going on? What's going on?
There's a story in there about what genius looks like when it doesn't perform itself, about what happens when somebody who really has it shows up anyway, in whatever state, and delivers something unrepeatable. The album is a continuous piece. Gaye said something in an interview that has never left me. With the world exploding around me, how am I supposed to keep singing love songs? He'd spent almost a decade as Motown's smoothest hit maker, and then he stopped. He looked at what was happening in the country, the war, the streets, the poverty, the noise, and he said, I am not going to pretend this isn't what it is. Save the children, Inner City Blues, Mercy Mercy Me.
People don't punish me with brutality.
These are not vague protest anthems. They are specific accounts of specific pain written by someone who knew that pain from the inside. And they are as current today as they were in 1971. Not because Gaye was prophetic, because some things don't change as fast as they should.
Of you crying.
In 1983, 12 years after this album, a journalist asked Gaye if What's Going On still held meaning for him, and he said, not really. I feel a bit apathetic about the world. The song hasn't done a great deal of good. The man who made the greatest protest album in the history of recorded music looked at the world over a decade later and felt like it hadn't mattered.
Got to find a way to bring some love.
And I have thought about that quote more than I can count, because he wasn't wrong, and the album sits there anyway. Still true, still listening, still asking. Marvin Gaye was shot and killed on April 1st, 1984, the day before his 45th birthday. And to hold all of that together, the album, the beauty, the Rolling Stone #1, the Mother, Mother lyric, and the way the story ends, that is one of the hardest things the music asks of us. That we love what people made and carry at the same time, the full weight of what it cost them. He made something permanent out of something unbearable. And that permanence is what makes it #1. Not the charts, not the critics, the fact that it still costs something to listen to it and always will.
Simply 'cause our hair is long.